Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Safety and Risk Success podcast. I'm your host, Christian Harris. My guests this week are Colin Nottage and James MacPherson. You may well know them for the podcast that they respectively host, and Colin's actually been a guest on this podcast too. James will be a guest shortly as well. But they've both joined forces and collaborated to work on something they've called Project Mollitiam. And that's why I wanted to get them onto the show this week. This, as we'll hear, is basically a platform for collaboration and sharing and best practice, a bit like a mastermind, but for safety professionals. And I was really keen for them to explain this, to share it with you guys. And I think that certainly some of you in the audience would really benefit from taking part, and I'm sure would get some great value from it. So let's get into it and join the conversation with Colin and James from Project Mollitiam. Colin and James from Project Mollitiam, welcome to the Safety and Risk Success podcast.
Morning.
Hello. Good morning.
Yeah, I'm good. Nice to see you both, Colin and James, both of whom I've known for some time, and we've collaborated on various things, Clubhouse and podcasts, and yes, exactly, exactly. But it's great to have you guys on because you're doing some incredible work, and I think really worthwhile stuff for the audience to hear about. So I was keen to really focus in on what you guys are doing with Project Mollitiam today, and explain what it is and all that stuff. Before we do that, for anybody that doesn't know who you are, it might be rare, but there's bound to be somebody. Do you want to just give a quick overview of kind of who you are, background? Colin, do you want to go first?
Yeah, no, thanks a lot, Christian. Great to see you. Yeah, my name's Colin Nottage. I run a health and safety consultancy based near sort of Stamford in Lincolnshire, working across the UK, and I'm also the host of the Interesting Health and Safety podcast. And recently got into a partnership with James on Project Mollitiam. So that's a little bit about me.
Thank you, James.
Thanks, Christian. Hi everyone. My name is James MacPherson. I am, as much as I'm not a massive fan of the title, probably best described as a YouTuber in safety. So I run a channel called Rebranding Safety, which is a podcast and a YouTube channel. And then by day, I have a normal job. I'm the head of safety and health and environment for the Glass and Glazing Federation.
Very good. I thought when you said, much as you don't like the word, I thought you were going to say influencer.
Yeah, well, I did. I was kind of referred to that a couple of times, and then I thought, oh, I'm not sure what's more divisive, influencer or YouTuber.
Yeah, well, I think you are an influencer. That's certainly my strong opinion. But I think you're quite right that you probably don't want to be calling yourself an influencer, because I think it's a little bit. It's not really, it's a bit. I don't know what the right word is.
The problem is I used to have it in my LinkedIn little subtitle thing, and then because I thought, yeah, that's cool, no one really uses it and blah blah blah, and then I put I wouldn't even say it was controversial, it was a bit more of a newer way of looking at safety comment to this post, and this guy was like, influencer my ass, I hope you don't influence anybody with that dross. And I was just like, oh mate, this was a long time ago. And then I kind of reacted to that, removed it, and I haven't gone back since.
Yeah. The thing is, I think if you put yourself out there like we all do with producing content, then you can't please everybody. You're always going to get some haters, unfortunately. Particularly, it's quite easy to be a keyboard warrior as well, isn't it? People will say stuff to you, or they type stuff to you on YouTube or Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever that they would never say to you face to face.
Yeah, there's kind of, in the YouTube world, there's an unofficial there's like an unofficial KPI as to you're more of a YouTuber the more haters you have.
Yeah.
And we're starting to get a few haters now. And now when I first started, I would be like, oh no, somebody doesn't like me. Now I love it. Like, I'm like, yes, another one. We are getting big time.
Yeah. But if you're trying to influence people using the similar word and change the way they're thinking, then you're bound to ruffle a few feathers. That's
of course,
because you're disrupting and you're putting out new ideas and new thoughts, and not everyone's going to like it.
Of course, yeah, exactly.
Definitely.
So, Project Mollitiam, I don't know who wants to draw the short straw here, but perhaps you could just start by giving us a 30-second or thereabouts intro as to what it is, high level, and then we'll get into some of the details. I don't know who wants to deal with that one.
Colin.
I'll pick that one up. What we're doing now, we're creating a community.
Colin, your audio is quite muffled for me.
Is it? Sorry,
is it James as
is
well?
that any better?
That's a lot better. Yeah,
that's a lot better. Okay, yeah, no.
Just start again with the answer, and I'll edit it.
Okay, yeah, no. Thanks a lot, Christian. We're creating a community for health and safety professionals. Whether you're new to the profession or you're looking to break into the profession, you're experienced and you feel maybe you're at a bit of a plateau in your career, or maybe that you're a bit further down your career and you want to give a little bit back to the community. We're creating this environment where we're empowering occupational health and safety and wellbeing professionals, and unleashing their true potential to create better workplaces. That's what we're about.
Perfect. That's a good summary. Very eloquently put.
And that's why Colin does it.
Exactly. And I did some research. You'll be staggered to hear. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I had to Google what does Mollitiam mean, and I think it comes from the Latin Mollitia, if that's the pronunciation, which is all about resilience and flexibility. Is that what?
Mate.
Yeah,
you nailed it. Yeah. It came up on a dog walk, actually, where most of my crazy ideas come from. Me and Colin, Project Mollitiam has been so many things before it is what it is now. And when we kind of stumbled on this idea, we were like, yes, this is it. We were trying so many things. And then we were like, well, what do we bloody call it? Like, so we just wrote loads of this is how my kind of brain works. So I've got so much stuff in there. I'll throw it down on paper. Like, this is my method of getting stuff from brain to reality. I throw it all down on paper. So there were, we literally had a couple of calls like, let's just get words that we like. Risk and resilience was always up there. There's a reason my podcast and my channel is called Rebranded Safety, is because health and safety kind of comes with a bit of a preconception. So we had that on there, but we were avoiding it. And there was so many words on there. And we just could not put them together in any way that rolled off the tongue. We didn't want something too big, we wanted something snappy. Something that also created a little bit of what is that?
What's
but also,
that?
but also like a bit of intrigue, but also communicated exactly what we wanted. Risk and resilience kept coming back up, and we just couldn't get anything. And then I was on a dog walk, and I can't remember. I was listening to a podcast. I can't remember what podcast, and this dude on the podcast went, "Doesn't stuff sound so much cooler in other language?" He was like, "The English language is so boring," and I was like, "That's it. That's it. We need to look at other languages." And then I was like, "But I don't speak any other languages, so I need to find a language which is acceptable not to speak but use the words." And I was like, "No, can't use Spanish, can't use," because everyone would be like, "What? You're not Spanish, you're not French." Latin. That's it. We can use Latin's words without knowing it. Googled resilience was the first word I Googled in Latin. And it came up Mollitiam. I texted it to Colin. I said, "If you don't like this, we shouldn't be in business together." And that was it.
That was it. And it was good.
And that's a great thing, because actually, it's about giving people the tools to succeed in this kind of ever-changing world with varying demands and additional demands, I suppose, as well. Because if you're in safety, you often end up getting environment and security and all these other things added on. So resilience is a great way of looking at what you need to do. So I'm fully invested and bought into the concept. But what's your opinion on kind of why this is needed? So what are the trends, or what's the situation? What's the problem, I suppose, that you're trying to solve with this?
I suppose we were looking at the existing environment that that we work in, and I think from my perspective, definitely was just what I'd learned from doing the podcast and the people that I'd met and I'd spoken to, and just the power of just having great conversations with with people from all over the world, about a topic that I'm really, really passionate about. I thought, I want to replicate that in some way. And I know when James and myself first started talking about it, we were there were so many similarities of what we were trying to do, what we're trying to achieve, and just this whole process of creating an environment where people can talk and discuss and learn. That's what we want to do, and we couldn't find that anywhere. There was no existing process of doing that we were aware of. So we thought, right, well, let's develop it ourselves.
Yeah, it's something that kind of in the entrepreneurial world is more common, I guess, the kind of mastermind approach, which is kind of how I see part of what you do, not all of what you do. But yeah, you're right. There's nothing within industry, I suppose, that seems to tick that box. I think it's
and I think also there's like you're a networker or you're not. You're not a networker in a way, like, and that's a very oversimplification of it. But like, I think that, like Colin said, like it's not just the talking to people on the podcast. It's also the network we've built. Like the network of people I now have from doing we've been going just over 2 years on my channel. Just over 2 years, the network I've had is phenomenal. It's unbelievable. And I have learned so much from WhatsApp groups and stuff that I'm in. And I thought, how do I get all this in one place and try and because I've learned more in the last 2 years from this network than I have probably in my entire 10 years of this career.
Yeah.
And then me and Colin kind of came together and we were thinking about it, and we both were on this same journey of trying to do something like this, but how do we get it? And then, we kind of looked at it from the point of view, with a little bit of investment from people that wanted to join the community, we can facilitate this process. And it kind of, and that word is kind of the difference. Like, yes, it is networking. Yes, there is a community, but also what we get to use what we've learned as interviewers, essentially. Like, we're kind of these weird hybrid safety professionals / journalists. Like, we've become quite talented at being able to facilitate conversations in a very emergent style. So we do that. Like, we kind of, whether it's playing devil's advocate, whether it's agreeing, whether it's being comfortable with silence for a little bit and just letting the community kind of lead the conversation, but facilitating them to do it. So that's kind of what we wanted to do, and I feel like that's what we're starting to achieve.
Yeah, powerful stuff. Can you give us then a quick overview of kind of the nuts and bolts? So, we're interested in this. We sign up for it. What do we get? How does it work? What's the structure? And then maybe some of the thinking behind that and some of the outcomes that you achieve through each kind of element of the structure or the process or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, sure. I'll go for a bit if you want, Colin.
Yeah, go on. Yeah, no worries.
So we have. There's kind of two aspects to this. There's our kind of community calls, and we break them down into 3 different types. And then we've got like the physical stuff that we provide. So at the moment, we're kind of offering the early adopters kind of package, so to speak, because our physical side is still being built and growing to what we think it will be. So there will be short courses coming, and the idea of those short courses to kind of, it's not like a massive course. They are short courses. They're like bite-sized stuff we're aiming to be, and they're more to fill the voids. So you go to a big qualification, and then it's kind of, the best way I describe it is you do your safety qualifications. It's kind of like learning to drive. You don't actually learn to drive until you've passed the test, and then you learn to drive. So our short courses are trying to facilitate that process. Like, when you're in the job, you need a little bit of a refresher, a little bit of a risk assessment, for example, in reality. So they're the short courses. I have the resource library, which essentially is just us doing hard work for you. Like, there's so much good stuff out there in the internet and the World Wide Web, but it's all over the place. And unless you know where to, you only know what you know. So unless you know where it is, it's hard to find. So we're trying to get as much as we can and put that into that resource library, so it's all in one place. And some unique stuff we do with that as well is let our community and anybody really contribute to that. So it's not about our brand, it's about getting the information in one place. So
like a sort of Wikipedia for safety almost.
It's kind of like that. So if one of our members, for example, runs a consultancy, and they produce a guide, and they're like, have you got anything like this in your library? And we're like, no. They can give it to us. We'll give them a discount to their membership to say thank you. And we're not going to rebrand it because we want to help their brand. So we'll just put it in there. So it's that. It's stuff from the internet. It's also stuff from our community. And then we've got the calls side. And I think this is like the thing that's most valued, but probably is perceived as being the least valued on face value, but actually it's the most powerful. They're Zoom calls, essentially, in a nutshell, but they are facilitated Zoom calls, which are just becoming unbelievably powerful, which, you know, I knew they would be good, but I never knew they would be this good. And we break them down into 3 sections. We have a weekly community calls, which are very much just community calls, a little bit facilitated. We start off with discussing your wins, because I think you could go years in this profession without ever being told you're doing a good job. So, you know, the point is there to people say their wins out loud and everyone go, wow, that's actually a really good win. Like, well done. That's really cool. Then we go into like that, the main bulk of that call is the middle 40 minutes to about 40 minutes of a subject, and that could be something that me and Colin as facilitators bring to the call. So it could be, here's a subject, what do you think? And we discuss that, we will go deep into it. Or it could be something that the community have said, I'm really struggling with this, can you all help me? So a great example is one that I just run this week. We had a community member come along and they said, I'm really struggling with my managers and to engage with some other managers. And we as a community helped guided her through that process. She had a call the next day and she fed back and said it was really helpful. So that's a really good example of that. And then we have a book club. That's Colin's thing. I'll leave that to Colin. He's nailed that. And then the wagon wheel as well. I'll leave both of them to Colin, actually, because he brought them to the table, actually. So I'll leave them to him.
All right. Well, I just want to re-emphasize something that James said then. I think, you know, when we first started this this idea, you know, we initially saw the resources and the short courses as going to be the thing that was going to be of value. But, you know, I totally agree with James. It's what we're getting out of the weekly calls is just absolute gold. You know, and the people are just so positive about it. And, you know, and it's just a really, really lovely environment to be in, where people are allowed to express themselves and you know, and learn. You know, everybody's learning. So you know, what we're doing with the book club is, you know, is fairly straightforward. You know, we're choosing a book which the you know, the members get a copy of. They then read the book, and when you read a book, you're going to get certain things out of the book yourself. You know, you're going to read it, you're going to take certain things away. But then we come together as a group and we discuss it, and we discuss, you know, what the good points were, what the, you know, what the aha moments, what the learning is, and all of a sudden, you know, you learn so much more because you start to learn what other people have learned, and, you know, and got other people's perceptions. So you know, so this month we're doing a book by one of our, also another podcaster, a guy called Sam Goodman, Safety Sucks. So we're you know, we're meeting in a couple of weeks' time to sort of talk through that. But again, it just gives us the opportunity to really explore the book and get the real value out of it. And so we've got, you know, in the year, 12 books that we're going to be looking at, and then that just keeps rolling on. The wagon wheel is our sort of quarterly mastermind, I suppose, and that has come. The name came from Silicon Valley. So the you know, back in the sort of the 90s, you know, the tech giants were developing bits. Well, probably a lot of the tech giants hadn't been formed at that point in time, but people were working in the industry, and outside of work, they were getting into an environment, into a bar called the Wagon Wheel, and we're just collaborating, talking, and we're trying to replicate that. Obviously, we haven't got the beer at the moment, but eventually, you know, we'll make them live. We'll make them live sessions. But it's just giving people the chance to collaborate, to talk about ideas, options. People are going to be setting goals, you know. So it's very much about, you know, about what can you as an individual achieve over the next quarter, and, you know, take that away. There's a lot of you know, looking deep into yourself, where you want to be as an individual, how you want to grow as an individual, set some targets, and then that feeds into the discussions that we have in our weekly calls. You know, we'll be looking at people, you know, well, how are you getting on with your you know, with your targets? How are you getting on with you know, with that self-development? So you know, it all nicely comes together.
Yeah. it's interesting. I'm doing something sort of similar in the kind of entrepreneurial space with a business called Dent, who run this kind of accelerator for entrepreneurs, and a similar kind of thing. There's a website with lots of best practices and templates and proven methodologies around different things to do. But then there's facilitated Zoom sessions, there's accountability, there's sharing of wins, there's sharing of challenges and blockages and things like that. And I found it super helpful because, you know, I think just being able to get into that environment with other people that are going through a similar journey. In this case, it's building a business, but for you guys, it's being involved in managing and owning and being responsible for safety and risk. You know, you can learn so much. I just think it's, you know, personally, it's a great idea.
Yeah, and I think as well, what we're really trying to facilitate here is cognitive diversity, like diversity of ideas. Colin probably, if he doesn't already, he will eventually roll his eyes when I say this word, because it's literally all I say. It's like it has been like it's interesting, the Silicon Valley, the idea for the wagon wheels. Like, I read the book Rebel Ideas and I was like, oh, have you read this book Rebel Ideas? And Colin was like, yeah, there's this really interesting thing about Silicon Valley, and I was like, yeah, that's it. And we were both talking about the same thing, and that's why we call it the wagon wheels. But we're facilitating cognitive diversity, and I think what we're trying to do, and there's a reason why we kind of don't segregate our community. Like, they're just a community together. There's no airs and graces about this whatsoever. There's no hierarchy or anything like that, because there is a value for experience. There is a value from, you know, being senior in your role. There is a value from all of that knowledge of qualifications, so on. 100% there's value, but we know that already. We do that in everywhere. We respect that. We listen to leaders and so on and so forth. What we're not very good at is listening to the people that have just joined a profession, or that are young in a profession, or even middle in a profession, but they have good ideas as well.
Yeah.
Like, and there are things that people will join the safety profession this year, next year, that are, you know, a younger generation, a completely different upbringing, you know, the new social media and stuff like that, who know nothing. You know, we know nothing about that stuff compared to what they do. And they come in and go, actually, this is how you communicate to my generation. This is how you communicate, and this is how I communicate. And they learn from the leaders and experienced people, but also the leaders and experienced people learn from them. So that's what we're trying to do. Like, if you look into our community at the moment, I mean, we're still growing, but we've got a guy who is more established in his career. He's an ex-quarry HSE inspector. The guy has got knowledge coming out of every orifice. Like, he's just a real technical guy. He knows his stuff. He's been in this forever, and he wants to give back. And this is the perfect space for him. But we've also got, you know, a young lady who's, you know, really early in her career. She's amazingly intelligent, and she's going to be a bloody doctor by the time she's 30. Then you've got another young lady who's kind of middle crossroads, trying to work out where to go next. The three of those, just you know, just put them in a room and give them a problem and see what happens, and it would be powerful.
Yeah, I agree. I think, and actually, what the beauty of having that facilitated environment is that you have the ability to put ideas out there and explore them in a safe place. And, you know, actually, you guys will agree with this. You know, every time I do an interview like this, I learn something new, and that makes me change my perspective and grow and develop. And it's exactly the same being in that kind of environment where you're able to share freely without criticism. And actually, well, constructive criticism is good, obviously, but, you know, feeling safe that you're not going to, there's nothing bad's going to happen. It's only going to be a positive, and learning from it. So yeah, absolutely. I think we can all do with changing our perspective slightly. That you know, just because somebody's been doing something for a long time doesn't necessarily mean they know best. And actually, arguably, if someone's been doing something for a long time, they possibly don't know best, if you know what I mean. They might be stuck in their ways.
Yeah, I think you're so right. You've used a really important word for us a couple of times there, Christian. And that's the safe environment. And I think, you know, I've been on a bit of a journey the last 18 months with my personal development and I've been on an expert speakers course because I wanted to get better at being able to engage with people. And the course has been amazing to me because it has been about a challenge in a safe environment. And that's what we wanted to bring. We wanted to bring that whole process where you're getting, because that's where you learn. You know, when you're challenged in a safe environment, that is where you learn. And so that's what we do. And just listening to the feedback that we're getting from the people that have been in the meetings, you know, we're achieving that. The safe environment. People are very, very open, very, very open, and we built a community really quickly. And it's something that I'm just really, really, really proud of. Really proud of. You know, and our members make that happen.
Yeah, we get a bit emotional about this.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, it's like your little baby, isn't it, almost?
Because it just like I got a text yesterday after a call and from the lady that we kind of helped with her problem, and it was just like, you know, she said, we've had a good day today. This is what happened, and it genuinely was because of all the help in the community. And I'm like, do you know what I mean? I'm getting proper because it's not something that, yes, it's something we built. Yes, it's something that we've been working really hard on. So yes, that would make anyone emotional, but it's like, I've been trying to tell everybody this for ages, like just talk to each other, and it'll be good. But it just turns out that, you know, they just needed a little bit of facilitation, like you say.
Yeah, and I think it's something that one of the journeys that I've been going on is to try and play a bigger game, if that makes sense. So try and be asking the question of so what, to actually get to some bigger implications. And I think everybody that's involved in safety and risk comes into it with a good heart and with good intentions, but sometimes you can get sort of a bit stifled by the day-to-day or by operations or by blockages, and actually you kind of then you don't reach for the stars, if you know what I mean, in terms of what you can actually help to achieve. So, you know, that kind of experience for you guys, feedback from that call, you know, is fantastic, because actually you're making a much bigger difference working together in collaboration with all these other people than you are just by working in your own little silo.
Yeah. And it's a career like no other. Like it genuinely, like I genuinely think that safety is probably the closest career to like being an entrepreneur than anything else, because we deal with so much. Like, you know, it's kind of like an entrepreneur. You do everything, don't you?
Yeah.
But like in safety, you have to know everything as well. You have to know the pressures of the CEO, of the board of directors, finance, you know, operations, so on and so forth. You have to have your fingers in every single pie. And then it becomes really hard for you to keep focused on what you're actually trying to achieve here. So like, whilst we do, and the example that I've given from one of our members is a very personal, professional development kind of thing. She had a very kind of personal managerial issue, but also a kind of call before that was kind of more technical. You know, I had this problem around something quite technical. How do we kind of do that? So, you know, we don't kind of limit ourselves to like professional development, even though we are targeting people's learning and their growth and for trying to facilitate their growth. But part of that growth is actually being able to achieve what you're trying to achieve at work, which can be really hard in safety, because you're just so much, you know, it's like, well, asbestos today, Legionnaires tomorrow, soft skills tomorrow, culture the next day, you know, I mean, corporate risks the next day, brands, you know, it's just crazy. And coronavirus has made that even more challenging.
Yeah. I think often it's you get bogged down in the day to day, as you've described there, James, and you don't think about the vision and the long term. And you know, I love the Alcoa story, you know, which I'm sure you guys are familiar with, where the CEO came in and said, we're going to prioritize safety, and over 15 years of doing that, and they lived that and breathed it, you know, they improved their safety performance, which was already good, by 90%, and they increased their profits, I think 7 times or something like that. So, you know, they doubled several times. And that's fantastic, but it's quite, when you're in the long grass and stuck in the weeds, it's quite hard to see that, isn't it? So a bit of perspective is always good.
Yeah, definitely. I think, you know, I mean, one of the things, you know, the profession hasn't got a particularly great image, and, you know, but when you actually look at it and when you actually analyze and just think about what James has said there, you know, you're able as a safety professional to have an impact and influence, you know, all of the business. every single part of the business, and it's actually a wonderful position to be in. But it's never sold that way. And I think, one of the things that we are doing is we are just making people aware of how great a profession this can be, and so become part of it. So we're working with organisations that are actually bringing people out of a career, and bringing them into the health and safety profession, and that is just really exciting. Helping people come from different walks of life, into what can be a really great and rewarding profession.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've talked quite a lot about growth and development from an individual perspective, and you've given us a bit of an idea of Project Mollitiam and the plans in terms of adding to the library and stuff. But where do you see the growth and the development of this over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years? Where do you think this can end up?
That's a good question. For me, it's just growing the community. It's just bigger and bigger and bigger community every time, and I just get a massive sense of achievement out of those little thank you, that really helped me. And the only way we do that and innovate more as a profession is through a connected community. So the bigger and bigger our community gets, the better. Obviously, from a business point of view, that's obvious, but like, just move that aside. It's you've only got to read Rebel Ideas. It tells you in there, when you have connected communities, you start to innovate, and our profession needs to innovate. 100%. We are desperate for it. We are desperate to innovate, whether it's from technology or new ideas of how we work. Like, we have become so siloed as a profession. You get this whole, I've just done a massive piece on it in my podcast. Are you safety 1 or are you safety 2? Like, that just drives me insane. But it's like, well, I'm just kind of safety. Like, like you hit the nail on the head earlier, Christian, when you said we're all trying to do the same thing here. Yeah. And that's a good thing. So that the point is, we have people in our community that are like, I'm right up there in that kind of safety 2 fanboy thing, even though I hate the labels, but we have people in there that would easily be cast by that community as safety 1.
Yeah.
So it's bringing them together, reducing the silos, getting them together, and I think we'll genuinely see innovation. So for me, it's there are loads of other things as well, but for me, that community gets big, and I just, when we know we've succeeded, I think we'll see innovation in our profession. 100%. I think we'll start to see our profession do better.
What we're doing as well, Christian, is that, and I think this is something that's a little bit different to anyone else we know, is that we're using the community to grow. So to help us facilitate the sessions moving forward, it's going to be the members that are going to be invested in. We're invested in our members to help them become people that can facilitate, and rewarding them, to actually deliver the sessions. So we're not expecting people to volunteer. They're going to be as they grow as individuals, and they show the skills that they want to, because not everybody wants to do it, but if they want to, the opportunities are there, and they will be rewarded for that. So,
and I think what that does as well, it is good to reward them, and 100%, but control is not the right word, but it does help us maintain the quality of those calls. Yeah. Because they're not volunteers, because we're bringing them, someone saying, I want to do that, I'd love to be a facilitator. Yeah, we've got number 1, we've got desire and passion, we've got intent, because they want to do it. Number 2, they're coming to us, so we train them, or kind of, just upskill them a little bit on how to facilitate our calls. And then 3, we pay them, which gives us, as much as I don't like the word, it gives us a little bit of control. If they're volunteers, we lose control, and we potentially, as this becomes a monster, we could potentially start to lose quality. And it's really important to Colin and I that we don't lose the quality of those facilitations.
Yeah, because you can't have, and I don't know what numbers you've got now, but you can't, the difference between having 20 people on a Zoom call and 300 people on a Zoom call is obviously stark, and you couldn't have 300 people on a Zoom call and make it work for everybody. So you're going to have to build a structure whereby you can still maintain the intimacy and the relationships for those regular calls, but obviously you guys, you've got other things to do as well. You can't be spending every single hour of every day facilitating Zoom calls. So that seems to make sense to me.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think where the 300 people in a room you can do is when you're giving information. Okay, so there's going to be as part of the quarterly masterminds. There's going to be a lot. We've got speakers that are coming along to give information, but then we're going to be breaking out. People are going to be breaking out into smaller groups to do those more intimate and those more challenging elements. So it's great. It's really cool.
Very exciting. Very exciting. Before we wrap up, guys, is there anything that you wanted to explain or get off your chest or pitch or anything like that I haven't asked you about? I'm quite conscious that we've covered a lot, but there might be something glaring that I've missed.
Well, I think for me, we are inviting people to come along for taster sessions. So our the meetings that we're having, the community calls that we're having, are on Wednesday evenings, 1 week at 6 o'clock, and then at Friday lunchtimes the following week. So we're just trying to come up with the times that different people can can participate in, and people are more than welcome to come along and attend and see what it's about, get a feel of it, and if they like it, then we'd love people to come and join. So get in contact through the website, which is projectmollitiam.com, or email us at me@projectmollitiam.com.
That was my next question. How can people get involved? But you've jumped the gun, Colin.
Beat you to it, Christian.
Yeah. No, you can see why you're a much more distinguished podcast host than me now.
I'd probably only add a couple of things to that. Like, I think now to tell you, you've all seen, I can't remember what it's called, but you've all seen that kind of adopters chart where you've got the early adopters, then the early and whatever, and then the laggards and stuff like that. Like, at the moment, it's the early adopters that are going to be keen to do this. But like, if you are that kind of person, like, this is the time. If you're in that safety profession, and I'll talk about, the next thing I want to mention is just who we're kind of targeting, but like, the people, the community that we have now, they're building this as much as we are. Like, and they will become the next big thing within this community, and they'll be the ones that become the facilitators, because they're that kind of person. They're early adopters. We're trying to reward that by giving them discounts and stuff. So if you are that kind of person, then now's the time. 100%.
I've got a tip for you, James, on that point.
Go on.
This is the line I always use about this kind of thing. The best time to have started doing X, Y, or Z was yesterday. The very next best time is today, and the worst time is in the future. So get on it now. There you go.
Definitely.
I'll give you that one for free.
Thank you, mate. Yeah. I'll send you an. You can send me an invoice. I'll give you my address. The next thing, I suppose, is worth just kind of touching on probably who is this community for. And like we've spoke a lot about our why and what we do and stuff like that, and what we want to achieve, but like who this is for, I think is probably threefold, and we probably break those down into three different characters. It is your young and up and coming professionals, or your new professionals. So you could be joining from anything like the forces, for an engineer coming over to safety, anything like that, or safety is your first career. 100%. It's going to be, the right place for you, 100%. And then there's those people that are already established in the safety career, but are feeling a little bit stuck. They're feeling like they're struggling to make that next step. Maybe that's from being traditionally very technical based and very compliance based, and now trying to take the next step back into becoming a bit more soft skills focused because you've got a leadership role or something like that. That's kind of the next key point that I think this will really 100% help you. And then the other one is people like, a couple of our members who I mentioned earlier that want to give back. They've established that point in their career, and they've gone, I've got so much information, and I want to give back. Maybe they're thinking of mentoring or something like that, but they want to do it too. They want to impact as many people as possible. Probably don't have enough time. This is the space for you, 100%. So new and young to the career, struggling to take the next step in your development, or want to give back. They're kind of the three key points, I think, in a safety and risk career, that I think will really benefit from this.
Yeah, perfect. And what about if people wanted to contribute towards like the library and stuff like that. So, some of the people listening to this may have content that they'd like to put forward. Is that just the same thing? Send you guys an email and
so there's kind of two ways if you're like a member, you can contribute and get yourself a discount. But if you're maybe looking at this and thinking that I'm a contractor and think my services could offer something to our community, then you can become a partner in that, and that's essentially like an affiliate that we will have. You'll provide us some content. For example, it could be slip safety services, provide us with a guide on how to manage slips, for example, and or how to clean better or something like that. That guide sits in our feed. We don't change the branding, boom. And then we'll give you guys a space on the website. So they're the two kind of ways. You join as a partner, which is like a solutions provider to our audience, or you're a member and you think I can contribute in another way. So that could be I'm a member, but I also like blogging, and it's relevant to our community. Boom, there you go. You get 10% off, and so on and so forth. So they're probably the two ways that people can contribute.
Perfect. So lots of opportunities to get involved, guys. So hopefully people tuning in will have found that interesting, and you'll get a flood of inquiries coming through once this goes out. Well, thanks very much, guys, for your time. We've recorded this on a Saturday morning, so I appreciate the commitment, which as small business owners we all have, clearly.
It's Saturday, is it?
Yeah, true. Every day feels the same, to be fair, doesn't it now?
But there's a holiday for James, isn't it?
James, it is Saturday, but the hairdressers aren't open yet, so I'll let you off.
I'm just gonna commit to it, mate. I'm going full.
Yeah. No, I think go for it. As long as your wife's happy with it, then that's fine.
She's actually encouraging it. I think she's trying to turn me into Jason Momoa or something. The problem is the body. That's the hard thing. There's perhaps a couple of years of gym work needed. My plan is to grow the beard so much it covers the body, so then she could just imagine that it's Jason Momoa.
Good idea. I like that. Now that is creativity and risk.
There you go, mate. There you go.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot, guys. So to finish up, then follow Colin on his interesting health and safety podcast. Check out James on YouTube or podcast with Rebranding Safety. And if you've got value from this and you want to learn more, visit projectmollitiam.com. I think that's the right URL.
And Mollitiam is spelled M-O. Oh, here we go. M-O-L-L-I-T-I-A-M. There you go.
We'll include it in the show notes, and on the YouTube version, we'll plaster it on the screen as well, so people can copy it down. Thanks for tuning in. Please give us a like and a review on whichever podcasting platform you're listening in on, because that will help us as well. And we look forward to seeing you guys in the future, and look forward to joining our listeners next week for our next episode.
Brilliant. Thank you ever so much, Christian.
Thanks, Christian.
See you now.